Good morning, everyone. My name is Lisa Carlson. I'm the Chief Exec of Canterbury's Business Improvement District. Very warm welcome to this online training session on business rates with Sadie Furner from the Civica team at Canterbury City Council. This is the second in our spring 2023 training series. We've had one already on the brand new Visit Canterbury, and if you couldn't make that, please do get in touch. The training sessions and information about them and where we have recordings, all of that's available on our website. That's canterburybid.co.uk, and all the sessions that are on Zoom, so most of them are virtual, are available to businesses across the Canterbury district. We've had some funding from Canterbury City Council to extend that, and then there are some other Canterbury Bid sessions only that are in person. So we'll put the link to all of those in the chat. And we'll be sending information out in particular about this one, because we know it's so important for your budgeting purposes. So there'll be a summary and recording available for those who couldn't join us live. So I'm joined by the bid team. We're all here on the call, and Sadie, who's going to present for us now, who's done this for a few years now. So Sadie, thank you very much for joining us, and over to you.
Thank you, Lisa. Good morning, everyone. As Lisa said, I've done this for a fair few years now, but business rates is something that never stands still. So there are still things that are updating and changing all the time. And when I say all the time, there's another budget coming in March. So quite possibly what I say today may be subject to change in just under a month's time. So I'm going to deliver this exactly how things are as they stand today. But obviously, should things change, we will make sure that all the information is available on the Canterbury City Council website for your information. So just a brief introduction. So what are business rates? So business rates are the commercial, if you like, equivalent to council tax. It's a tax on property, or in some cases land, where the property itself isn't lived in, so it's not occupied for a residential purpose. The business rates charge is set by government, so the government will set the multipliers, and the rateable value of a property is set by the Valuation Office Agency. So that is the first thing to point out, that it's not the city that sets the amount of business rates that you are charged or that we collect. We are the billing and collection agent, if you like. In order to calculate the business rates, each property is given a rateable value, as I said, by the Valuation Office Agency. I've got another slide on how that's worked out, and the government will set multipliers. So in order to arrive at your charge, you would take your rateable value and multiply it by the multiplier that's set each year. For the current rateable value list, or the rating list, this was set on it came into force on the 1st of April 2017. It runs until the 31st of March of this year, so 2023, and it's based on the assumed rental value of the property on the 1st of April 2025. We are entering what we call a revaluation year. So from the 1st of April, all properties will be given a new rateable value by the Valuation Office Agency. Again, I've got more information coming on that. Revaluations used to happen every 5 years. Sometimes there was a couple of extensions to that. I think we had one 2010 lasted until 2017. The current one has been 2017 to 2023, and from this year onwards they will be every 3 years. The reason for them moving to every 3 years is to try and take account of the fluctuating markets in both rents and business in general. Since the 1st of April 2023, local authorities have had the opportunity to retain an element of the business rates that's generated. This is incredibly complex. but basically it encourages local authorities to try and grow their business rates list so that they themselves can keep an element of that growth. So it's not an overall element of the business rates, it's an element of the growth that is achieved from one year to the next. So as I said, it's ever changing, and we have got some upcoming changes from the 1st of April 2023. So as I mentioned, we've got the revaluation. As I said, I've got further information on that. In the autumn budget, the government announced that they were going to freeze the business rates multipliers for a further year. So they will now be or remain 49.9 pence for the small business multiplier and 51.2 pence for the national multiplier. Depending on the size of your property and whether or not it's occupied will depend on which multiplier is used to calculate your rates. If your rateable value is under £51,000, the property is occupied but not occupied by a charity, then you will have your business rates calculated using the small business multiplier. So that's the 49.9 pence. Anything over £51,000 rateable value or is occupied by a charity and is under that rateable value threshold, or indeed if the property is vacant, then the multiplier used will be the national standard multiplier of 51.2 pence. Some of the other changes, so we've got retail discount. There's currently a discount of 50% for eligible businesses. This is increasing for 2023-24 to 75%. A new supporting small business scheme. We do have one currently that was introduced for the first time during the last rating list. That this will help small businesses that either are going to lose small business rate relief entirely or have a reduction in the amount of small business rate relief they receive, or lose or reduction in rural rate relief as part of the revaluation. Again, I've got more information on that. There's a transitional relief scheme in place that will phase in increases in bills under the revaluation. This is a slight difference to previous years as they have removed the downward phasing. So previously, if your business rates rateable value increased from one list to the next, they would phase in that increase so that you wouldn't pay that immediate higher bill. That's remaining in place to assist. What they used to do in order to pay for that upward phasing, they used to gradually reduce bills where rateable values fell. That will now not happen, and the lower bill will be reached immediately. The other thing that the government introduced a couple of years prior was an improvement relief. That's essentially been bumped, so that now won't begin until April 2024 and will last until April 2028. So it was due to start this April, and that is where businesses make an adaptation or an enhancement to their property under green energy, so adding solar panels to roofs, etc. They would normally be rateable, and what this relief will do, well, where those improvements are made, they will be exempt from rating for that period, so April 24 to 28. So just to go on to the revaluation and a bit more information. So as I said, it takes effect from the 1st of April 2023. What the Valuation Office will do is they will have over the last 3 years collected lots and lots of data about all the properties in the rating list. They will look at and assign a market rental value for those properties on the 1st of April 2021. So it's 2 years prior to the actual list coming into effect. So what will happen is they'll gather all the information. They will look at 3 different methods of valuation. They take actual rents. That happens in most cases. They look at receipts and expenditure. So that's more likely for pubs and hospitality. So where the rent for the physical property may not be reflective of the amount that business should pay. And also they have the contractors method, which is for specialist properties that don't really fit into either the rental or the receipts expenditure. So that can be things such as airports or theme parks, things that it's really quite challenging to ascertain what that rental figure could be assumed to be. Rateable values in a revaluation can go up, they can go down, they can stay the same. So in most cases, you will see some change. Whether or not it's a big change or not will be dependent on the changes in market since the last list. Obviously, the date being used is the 1st of April 2021, so it includes the impact of COVID. So what we've seen, especially in the southeast, is a big reduction in retail rateable values, a big reduction in hospitality rateable values, but then an increase in industrial, for example. The check, challenge and appeal process isn't changing. So if you think your rateable value is incorrect after the 1st of April 2023, you can lodge what's classed as a check with the Valuation Office Agency. You will tell them why you think that the rateable value is wrong, and they will check the information that they hold, the information that you're providing them, and check that the rateable value that you've given them is correct. If you still disagree after the check, you can then move on to the challenge phase, where they will ask you to gather lots of additional information to support your argument for an amendment to the rateable value. Again, if the rateable value isn't changed, you can then lodge an appeal, which will go to the independent tribunal service, and they will look at all the evidence. That process can be quite lengthy. On the basis that we're now moving to 3 yearly revaluations, we're hoping that that will start to come down. There is maximum time periods allowed for each phase to try and prevent what we had prior to this process being in place, was some appeals still outstanding for many, many years after being lodged. If you think that there's a factual error in the draft rating list, so all businesses now should have been sent notification as to what their rateable value is going to be from the 1st of April. If you haven't received that, you can log on to the Valuation Office Agency website, and it should be listed there what your rateable value will be from April. If you think that it's a factual error, so for example, you have a shop that's X number of square meters, but the rateable value includes areas that you don't have, or the amount is incorrect, you can contact the Valuation Office Agency before the 1st of April and advise them that there is a factual error. So this isn't just to disagree with how much they've rated your property at. This is actually, you've got it as 20 square meters, whereas actually it's only 18 or something like that. So they will correct that prior to April. As I said, there's been some general trends with this revaluation. Office accommodation has generally increased in RV. The industrial sector have increased in RV, whereas retail and hospitality, as I said, have decreased. I just wanted to point out where business rates and the bid levy are aligned is that the bid levy that we are billing is not impacted by this revaluation at this time. So your levy that will be billed in October will still be based on the current rateable value as it is up until the 31st of March of this year. So just moving on to some of the reliefs and exemptions that are available to help reduce business rates bills. So charities and non-profit making organisations, if you are a charity or a community amateur sports club or CASC, then you can receive up to 80% mandatory relief. So that is a set amount of relief, and receiving that automatically excludes you from eligibility for small business rate relief. There is also another 20% top up of discretionary relief that's available. It's the same application form on our website. We ask for additional information about what it is that your organisation does, and also some figures for your last 3 years audited accounts. We will review that based on the current discretionary policy that, again, is available on the website. For non-profit making organisations or community interest companies, so basically organisations that are not for profit but without charity status, then we will consider up to 100% discretionary relief. Again, it's the same policy for the top up. Small business rate relief, again, I'll come on to because that's one of our main ones, and we've got a bit more information about that. For empty properties, they are only exempt for 3 and or 6 months per property. So a standard property, once it becomes unoccupied, will only be exempt from paying business rates for 3 months. Once that 3 months has expired, a full business rate charge is due. As I said in the slide about the multiplier, it will be based on the 51.2 pence. Industrial properties will receive a 6-month exemption, and we generally know which ones those are, so that will be automatically applied. Where a property is listed, it's going to be next occupied by a charity, it's agricultural, or the current liable party are in administration, then there are full exemptions available. So no business rates will be charged whilst those properties are empty. There are a number of discretionary reliefs. A lot of the reliefs that the government introduce at things such as budgets are technically discretionary reliefs. So that includes the retail discount, will include improvement relief for the first year, the green energy relief that's currently available, all of those reliefs, supporting small business relief, they are all fall under the discretionary bracket. Ultimately, government provide us with guidance and fully compensate the council for the award of those reliefs, so we would have no reason not to grant them should a business be eligible for them. But they do technically fall under our discretionary powers because no primary legislation needs to be made in order for those to be granted. The final one that I've got on here is hardship relief. So this is usually considered where there is something that is either outside of the business's control that's affecting the income of that business. We've had things such as flooding, in some cases short periods of access restriction to a property, things like that. So we tend to look at that. Hardship relief wasn't used during the pandemic because the government introduced several other different types of relief in order to help mitigate the impact. So it wasn't considered for that purpose. So small business rates relief, like most things, there's nothing that isn't particularly complicated. It's complicated. This can only be received on one property. I think that's the first thing to state. It can only be applied if a business only occupies one property and the rateable value is less than £15,000, or a business occupies more than one property, but the rateable value of your other properties are all less than £2,900 each, with the rateable value of all of the properties combined being less than 20,000. So yeah, it's not particularly straightforward. In most situations, a business only occupies one property and they will receive relief on that one property. Where they have multiple, then they can receive it on the main property, and that property can have a rateable value of up to £15,000, but any other properties they have must have rateable values of less than £2,900. As soon as one of them goes over, they will lose relief for that first property. Relief is 100% of the charge if the rateable value is less than £12,000, and relief will be tapered where the rateable value is between £12,000 and £15,000. The retail discount, I've included on the slides all of the different iterations of retail discount since it was introduced again in 2019-20. But the last 2 years, for 2022-23, this is at 50% of a bill from the 1st of April 2022 to the 31st of March 23. There's no rateable value cap, but a maximum relief threshold of £110,000 per business. So essentially, a retail, hospitality or leisure business can receive a discount of 50% of their bill for this current financial year, as long as the total relief they receive for their entire business, so it's not per property, it's per company, per business, doesn't exceed £110,000. They can receive relief on as many properties up until that cap, but they can't go over that cap for the total relief. For 2023-24, as I said before, that's increasing to 75% of the bill. So from the 1st of April 23 to the 31st of March 24, there'll be a 75% reduction. Again, no rateable value cap, but a maximum relief threshold, again, of £110,000 per business, not per property. So you may find that there are some businesses that will drop out of relief where the amount awarded has gone up. Transitional relief, as I was mentioning to Lisa and the big guys before we came on, transitional relief is incredibly complicated to calculate. We're very fortunate that our system does it for us. However, it's used to phase in increases and decreases in bills as a result of the revaluation. So in previous rating lists, if a rateable value went up, the increase in the bill would be phased in. If the rateable value went down, the decrease in the bill would be phased in, and the phasing offset each other. So the downward phasing was used to pay for the upward phasing. From this year, or from the 1st of April 23, transitional relief will only be used to phase in increases in bills. So if a rateable value goes up, your increase in bill will be phased in over the number of years in the rating list, or when you would actually reach the amount you would have paid without transitional relief. And if a rateable value goes down, you will experience the entire decrease in bill immediately. So where, for example, if your current rateable value is £15,000, your bill will be based on that rateable value. If your rateable value in the next list is £12,000, your next bill will be based on the 12,000, so there'll be no downward phasing. Supporting small business relief, it's again what we call another revaluation relief. It was first seen in the last revaluation in 2017. And this limits the increase in business rates bills as a result of the revaluation for businesses that previously received small business rate relief or rural rate relief. So if, for example, your current rateable value is £12,000 and your new rateable value is £16,000, you previously would have received 100% relief. You're now not going to be eligible for any small business rate relief. So this relief will kick in addition with transitional relief, in order to phase in the increase in your bill. The relief will limit the increase in your bill to a maximum of £600 per year. So in that example, the bill in the first year of the revaluation would be a maximum of £600. It may be slightly less depending on the transitional relief given. So, as I said, there's an example there. So 10,000 rateable value in the 2017 list, 100% small business rate relief and a nil bill. £16,000 in the 2023 list, they'd no longer be entitled to small business rate relief, but their bill in 2023-24 would be no more than £600. That will then increase by £600 each subsequent year until such time that they got to their full bill or there was another revaluation. So it will apply for up to 3 years. So business rates payment. So business rates is billed in 10 or 12 monthly instalments from April to January or April to March each year. It's payable by direct debit, online, telephone or back standing order. The bills you can have electronically. I've included the web address there to sign up for paperless billing, and explanatory notes accompany every bill that we issue. We don't have to, we used to physically have to include those in with paper bills. We don't have to do that now. We can publish them online, so they will be on the council's website and will be updated shortly when we go through our annual billing process for the next financial year. Business rates recovery. So as I said, the recovery process is set down in law. It tells us what we can and can't do and gives us time limits as to when we can and can't do things. So a demand notice will be issued first of all, stating the amount that's due and giving any instalments that are permitted. Should an instalment not be paid on time, then a reminder notice will be issued. The reminder notice will give you 7 days in order to make that missing payment. Should the subsequent instalment be missed and that payment for that reminder notice have been made, then a final notice will be issued where the full charge will be due for that financial year. So it removes the right to pay by instalments. In practice, we tend to issue final notices in all cases, but we could potentially go straight from reminder to issuing a summons if that first reminder notice remains unpaid. A summons is where we ask the Magistrates Court to issue a summons for a liability order hearing in the Magistrates Court. To stress that this isn't in the county court, so it doesn't result in a CCJ or a black mark, as people would often refer, on a credit rating. It won't appear in your credit history at all, or that of a business. The hearing itself takes place currently at Folkestone Magistrates Court, where we will ask the magistrates to grant a liability order. Both of these processes incur additional costs. Currently, £60 for a summons, and we ask the magistrates for £50 for a liability order, so £110 in total. The liability order essentially protects the council's interest in the debt and enables us to evoke further recovery methods to recover the amount due. This can include referring the case to enforcement agents or bailiffs for collection. Where it's an individual, we can potentially look to take committal action. So ultimately, it would go back to the Magistrates Court to see whether or not they would grant a custodial sentence. For businesses, we can invoke winding up or insolvency action, and similarly bankruptcy for individuals. However, at every stage of this process, we are open to making arrangements. So the biggest thing that I can say is please contact us if you're having any problems with making payment, feel that you are eligible for relief that you've maybe not been given, or that you're just generally struggling to pay the amounts due, and we can do what we can to assist without it having to go through all of these formal processes. Sometimes they are necessary, but it's not something that we like doing if we can avoid it. We'd much rather work with businesses to ensure that they pay the amount due in terms that can help them. I've included some useful information and websites there. So the Canterbury Business Rates website, Valuation Office Agency, for general business rates information on gov.uk. And I've also popped our email address on there for the team. That comes directly to us, should you have any further queries. I'm really aware that that was whistle stop, especially compared to previous years where I've had multiple grant schemes and discount schemes and relief schemes to talk through. So I'm sure there's probably some questions, or if there's anything that you want expanding further, I'm more than happy to do that now.
Sadie, thank you. And I know that's a lot of information for all of us to take in, and different aspects will be applicable to different businesses. there aren't very many of us, so if in fact, Sadie, if you want to stop sharing slides,
Yeah.
I can see everyone on one screen. If you want to just jump in, I think that'd be absolutely fine. I've got a few questions, so I'll just kick off. I'm going to work my way backwards through your presentation. When you talked about the retail relief being capped at 110,000,
Yeah.
is it tapered above that, or everyone up to 110, no matter what your RV is, you get that relief up to 110? Is that correct?
That is a maximum per business. So if your rateable value is 250,000, your relief will be capped at 110.
Okay.
So you will only receive that.
Everyone's eligible, all retailers, but up to 110.
Yep. Up to 110. It doesn't matter how many properties you've got, it'll be the cumulative total of relief. So if you've got 10 smaller properties, you'll only receive 110 total on those 10 properties.
Okay.
So it's capped per business, not per property.
Per business in a council area? Or
no, in the country.
In the country, fine. Yeah,
yep.
So that's a valuation office. That's throughout the whole, in England and Wales, I'm assuming. Yeah, okay. Thank you. And then with the discretionary rates relief, you mentioned a few, like small business, green, and then you went into some of those details and when that will apply. Is there any other aspects of discretionary relief you think we should be aware of?
Not really. There are only the standard ones. So there's the ones that I mentioned, and the general discretionary relief for not-for-profit.
Yeah.
So the council could consider awarding its own discretionary relief if there was an event, for example, but we don't. There's no current policy for that at the moment.
Okay. And for charities, who then would automatically apply for the 80% relief. In order for that discretionary 20%, you mentioned that application is available on the Canterbury City Council website.
Yep, that's right. It's the same application for the mandatory 80%. So it's one form, and we will assess for both. Yep.
Okay, and I've put that link in the chat, and when we circulate the notes on this, we'll send all those website links around that you put in. So, and if you go on to canterbury.gov.uk and just search business, I think it's business and investment now, you'll find it. And you mentioned under that what you need to see audited accounts. Is that correct?
It generally is, yeah. If a charity or an organisation hasn't been trading that long, then we would usually accept a projected forecast, business plan, something like that will evidence what the income of that charity is likely to be, or that organisation is likely to be.
Okay, and that's increasingly of interest for meanwhile use. So while there's a temporary vacancy and we've seen different charities and pop-ups come in, we've seen that used in Canterbury over the last few years. Okay, one other question from me, then I'll stop. When we've got empty units and there is automatically a 3 to 6 months relief given, under what circumstances can business rates relief be given after that period? So, yeah,
there has to be a period of occupation of at least 6 weeks in order for 6 months to be given again.
Okay, so when we've got there are some units around the city, some go really quickly once they're empty, some they're in for particular legal circumstances, they can't be occupied, or as we've seen with the former Debenhams and the former Nasons, there's the issue of the Stod Marsh Nature Reserve and coming up with a solution to wastewater treatment, which has held those up. So those are being charged, the owners of those sites are being charged business rates.
I can't comment on the site specifically, but if they haven't been occupied for a period of at least 6 weeks, then there would be the full rates charged.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, there are other exemptions than the ones I listed. So I think I listed properties, companies in administration, things like that. There are others. So prohibited. So if a property is prohibited from being occupied for various either health and safety reasons, there's fire, all sorts of other regulations that would stop a property from being occupied, then they could be exempt. There's a whole list of exemptions, but I just stuck to the common ones.
Yeah.
There.
Well, thank you. That's really helpful. Are there any other questions anyone would like to pop in the chat or unmute and ask? No, I know some of the questions you may have are going to be very particular to your own business and for those of you watching the recording. So please do get in touch with the business rates team. Sadie, you put that contact email in there. I know that especially during the pandemic and when all the grants were being administered, there were some delays in getting a response, but it's really important that you lodge your question or concern, start to gather the evidence, or when it comes to the new rates list coming online, if you want to have that checked, that you officially document that process and get in touch, and your question will be answered.
Yeah, I mean, we're well within our 10 working day aim to turn around at the moment. So yeah, responses are generally fairly quick.
Through the pandemic grant craziness of the last few years. And thank you also for pointing out the difference with business rates and the bid levy. So the Civica team and Canterbury City Council are responsible for collecting the levy. That's the case for bids around the whole of the UK, where it's the local authority who collects the levy. So the couple of differences to point out is that you can pay business rates by monthly instalments, whereas the bid levy is an annual fee. And what business improvement districts do is to consult ahead of every 5-year period with businesses. And in order to then deliver the projects, there has to be a certain amount that's brought in annually to deliver on those, on that consultation and that business plan, which is why for every 5-year bid term, the bid levy is set against one ratings list, even if halfway through that period, the ratings list might change. So of course, for some it will go up, for some it will go down. And our hope is always that if you're getting more business rates relief, then hopefully your bid levy is less of an impact and it's much smaller anyway. But happy we can answer some of those questions. If you've got some overall questions about your business, how the bid levy is collected, and also what relief, business rates relief you might be eligible for, then that's for the business rates team at Canterbury City Council. Any questions about what the bid delivers with that money, those questions are for us. Right, I think that's everything. Sadie, thank you again. I know it's a lot of information for all of us to take in, but we'll pull out some bits and pieces of that and then share this presentation more widely. And as you said, we'll look out for any updates coming in March.
Yeah.
Great, thanks everyone. Bye for now.